Hi everyone, welcome into Siren Records Monterey. It's Fresh Catch Friday, and I hope that happy Friday. I hope if you're coming into town to for the Cali Roots Festival, just keep in mind you can come in and shop, and anything over $50 we'll ship it anywhere you want for free, and anything under $5 we'll ship it for you, so you don't have to lug albums around if you nobody wants to go to a festival and do that. And this way you can come in and browse. And anyway, that's started yesterday, and it's going to be today and tomorrow, and or does it go through Sunday? Yeah, it's a 4-day this time, and so it's going to go through since yesterday all the way through Sunday. And that just works in time because we're actually going to be closed on Memorial Day. So if you're local and don't come to shop on Memorial Day. It's very rare that we ever get the 3-day holiday. So God, we all need it. We really are going to take it. So anyway, if you're new to the channel, hi, this is where we talk about some of the new releases, reissues, and represses that came out today on vinyl. And we always start with a pick of the week, sometimes two. Anyway, and then we go and there's a list posted down below in the comments section that goes alphabetically. Now you will see stuff on the list that we haven't talked about here in the video, but we just try to move it along. So I just give a nice handful of stuff and we get through it, and you can see the prices and stuff like that. But anyway, let's start out with pick of the week this week. It is Arlo Parks, and it's called My Soft Machine, and this is on the Transgressive label. Now, this is the sophomore album from Arlo Parks. It's a deeply personal body of work, a narration of her experiences as she navigates her 20s and the growth that is intertwined with growing up and doing that. So it follows her highly praised debut album, Collapsed in Sunbeams, that you might remember, which was terrific. And it received 2 Grammy nominations for Best New Artist and Best Alternative Music Album. It won a Brit Award, received a Honda Mercury Prize, BBC introducing her as Artist of the Year Award, all this stuff. And even a BET Awards that reached the top 3 on the UK album charts. So the album was recorded here, not here, but between London and Los Angeles throughout 2021 and 2022. So Arlo works alongside producers including Paul Epworth, Ariel Reichstad, Rommel Hamani, who does Brockhampton, Frank Ocean collaborator Buddy Ross, and Carter Lang, who does SZA. So whilst also self-producing a run of the material on the album. And the record features a guest vocal from musician and friend Phoebe Bridgers. It's limited edition transparent green vinyl, and it will tell you that on the sticker. But there's also this great limited edition box. And with this one comes on transparent violet vinyl. There's a friendship bracelet in here and a tote bag and more. So anyway, it's a good listen, and if you liked her first album, Collapsed in Sunbeams, you'll probably really like this too. So good for her. She did not disappoint on this sophomore album that sometimes people struggle with. Okay, so moving on. I have some Aerosmith reissues for you, and they're all on the Capitol label. Okay, so we're going to start out with Get Your Wings, which is the second studio album by Aerosmith. It was released in 1974, and this reissue has been remastered from the original tapes onto 180-gram vinyl, and these are all black vinyl too, by the way. Then also we have Night in the Ruts. This was the 6th studio album. Was released in 1979. Same deal, remastered from the original tapes on 180-gram. And then we have Rocks, which is the 4th studio album, and it was released in 1976. Now, this album has been certified 4 times platinum, and features the top 40 hits Back in the Saddle, The Last Child. Rocks was ranked number 366 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list in 2020. This reissue has been remastered again from the original tapes on 180-gram. And finally, I have for you Toys in the Attic, and this one is the 3rd studio album. It was released in 1975, and it's been certified 9 times platinum. Features the Hot 100 hits Sweet Emotion and the original version of Walk This Way, and this has also been remastered onto 180-gram. Okay, and then this, I think these guys are just so cool. This is AJJ, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Disposable Everything, and this is on Hopeless Records. So they're a Phoenix-based indie punk band, and they're back with their 10th studio album here, Disposable Everything. So after years of cult-like indie success and underground critical acclaim, they continued to evolve with each album and adding more layers and texture musically, while still maintaining their trademark wit and irreverent lyrics. And not every band can juxtapose apocalyptic despair with the warm comfort of an old electric blanket, while hitting fans with rousing punk anthems 1 minute and beautiful acoustic balladry the next. So Disposable Everything, AJJ's created an album that's both important and beautiful here that will make you feel better about everything while telling you just how terrible everything is. It's pretty funny. So you can get this on green or strawberry red, and that says what it is on the sticker on the front. We love when they do that. Okay, next up we have Arch Enemy. This is a reissue. Burning Bridges on this is on the Century Media label. So the 2023 reissue of the third album by this Swedish extreme metal pioneers, Arch Enemy. The last studio recording features the original singer Johan Leva, and the first Arch Enemy album to feature Charlie D'Angelo on bass. So Burning Bridges here represents the band at their most mature, at least as of the date of the release of this on their discography. First of all, the production-wise, it sounds absolutely fantastic. And every instrument sounds full and crisp while maintaining an organic warmth to them and not bending to the temptation of modern, overly polished production. The title alone, Burning Bridges, along with the album cover, have this plain yet epic quality to them. The lyrics actually sound compelling in parts, whereas they often came off as cheesy on the previous two records. Anyway, this is on limited edition 180-gram transparent green vinyl. And nicely, it is indicated on the sticker. All right, next up, we have Asia, Phoenix. And this is on, whoops, sorry guys. It's on BMG Rights Management UK Limited. Okay, this is the 10th studio album by the British rock band Asia. It was released in 2008 originally. It was the first studio recording with the original lineup after the reunion in 2006. So Phoenix basically carries on the tradition of the self-titled debut as well as Alpha, as if no time had passed at all and none of the subsequent Asia releases and lineups had happened in the interim. Bassist John Wetton, despite all the health problems that he's gone through, has held up, and his voice sounds great on this. His voice is rich and melodic, and his bass playing, it still carries that distinctive Wetton touch. If you like more ballady part of Asia, then there's plenty of that on here for you. But when the band rocks out a little more and deeps into their prog kind of bag of tricks, that's guitarist Steve Howe who really shines, laying down plenty of those snaky, sinewy lines, as we all know so well through his many years of playing with Yes. Throughout it all, keyboard player Jeff Downs drops in an assortment of orchestrations and synth tapestries, although at times you kind of have to wonder about his choices of sound, as a few have a sterile kind of a feel to them. What about Carl Palmer, you ask? Well, the ELP legend clearly holds it all together, but don't expect too much in the way of like flamboyant drum wizardry, as he basically plays what's just right for the songs on this, injecting some snazzy fills, but overall just keeping things in line with holding down a solid groove. So while Phoenix wasn't the chart buster that Asia's self-titled debut was, it was a solid return for the bunch of seasoned veterans who still obviously have plenty of magic left to show us. Catchy melodies abound here, along with some tasty, if underrated, instrumentation, signaling a band that, quite frankly, had been missed for many years. This is 2 LPs on black vinyl. Okay, then we have Bayonne, and this is Temporary Time on Network Records. This is a deeply informed by a deliberate transformation of his musical process, Bayonne's third full-length album, Temporary Time. It ultimately makes for his most expansive work to date, an album of both painfully raw introspection and otherworldly beauty. On Temporary Time, he channels vast imagination into elegant yet wildly experimental forms of electronic pop, equal parts meditative and mesmerizing. In the making of his latest body of work, the Austin-based artist, producer, multi-instrumentalist, otherwise known as Roger Sellers, found himself in even greater need for an outlet for his kinetic creative impulses. And thanks to an intense convergence of events in his personal life, things like his father's diagnosis and eventual death from cancer, the end of a significant relationship, and overwhelming struggle with depression and anxiety, Right Thing and Perfect are focus tracks. So this is on limited edition electric blue vinyl, and it does say so on the label. Now, let's see. Okay, this is Charlie Byrd and Stan Getz, and this is jazz samba. It's on Verve. So when Charlie Byrd toured South America in 1961, bossa nova, a melding of Brazilian samba rhythms with harmonic structures and cool sound of West Coast jazz was booming. And he brought back records for Stan Getz to hear, and they planned a session. The result was Jazz Samba, the first album of bossa nova music by jazz artists and one that created the bossa nova wave. So this is Verve's acoustic sound series that this is on. It features transfers from analog tapes and remastered 180-gram vinyl in this deluxe gatefold packaging. So that's a nice piece. This is Caribou. It's called Our Love, and it's on Merge Records. And Our Love is formed around a mixture of digital pop production, hip-hop inspired beats, muted house bass lines, and a love of shuffling garage that can be traced all the way back to the time of Start Breaking My Heart, all of which are, of course, filtered through Dan's own unique perspective. The warm analog sounds of classic soul should not be overlooked here either, for they weave themselves most intensely into the record's DNA, and Our Love is probably Caribou's most soulful record to date. With tracks like Back Home, whose heartfelt lyrics are dealing in tired relationships and a weary kind of love, and organic nature cut through the bubbling synths and blissful euphoria of their synthetic constructions. It's not all downbeat, though. While some thoughts linger on mortality, loss, and letting go, there's always the element of celebration. So half-speed mastered, limited edition pink vinyl plus a download. And it does tell you that here too. So yes, we're on a roll with people telling you what color the vinyl is. Except now, here we get to Charlie XCX, True Romance. This is the original Angels repress on Atlantic. And it's her debut studio album. It reached its milestone 10-year anniversary last month in April. And to celebrate, they repressed True Romance on silver vinyl. But there's no indication of that on anything going on here. That doesn't say, but it is. You can trust me on that. The album features the singles You, Ha Ha Ha, and Nuclear Seasons. At the last decade has unfolded, Charlie XCX has become only more prolific both as a performer and a songwriter. So this is particularly evident by the success of her most recent studio album that was called Crash. Okay, so silver vinyl, trust me. Now we have the Dandy Warhols, the Black Album, and this is on Little Cloud Records. Now, writing off the debut hype of 1995's Dandy's Rule OK, this new batch of songs saw a band that was spinning into the unknown. Bigger budgets meant bigger expectations, and the Dandy Warhols didn't want to lose their lipstick sneer to bowing down to the powers that be. So knobs were turned into the red, and chemical hors d'oeuvres were served around the clock for this, and with the intent of pushing themselves into uncharted waters. They even got a trumpet to feedback. So picture the band sending Capitol a song called Crack Cocaine Ranger, and just try not to smile. But we all know what the story. After a brief tour with Love and Rockets to clear their heads, the label and the band both decided to hit the reset button. The demos for Boys Better and Minnesota, among other fragments and oddities, ended up on the now legendary The Dandy Warhols Come Down. So this repressing is no longer a gatefold cover, but instead it's a single jacket pocket with a printed inner sleeve containing a download card, and it accompanies the 140-gram black vinyl. All right. Now this, we had talked about this before. It's finally out. This is the reissue of Cab for Cutie Plans double LP on Barsook Records. So this is their 2005 classic 2 LP Plans. It's back in stock and on standard weight black vinyl presented in gatefold packaging. Now Plans is the band's platinum selling Grammy nominated major label debut, and it includes some of their most beloved songs, including Soul Meets Body, Crooked Teeth, and I Will Follow You Into the Dark. So side D includes a non-album bonus track called Talking Like Turnstiles. So this is a real nice piece if you've been waiting. Finally, it's here. Okay, this is GOAT, World Music, and this is on Rocket Recordings. Now, when the mysterious masked collective calling themselves GOAT first emerged in 2012, armed with this debut album, World Music, and a backstory for the ages, the band's anonymous members hailing from a remote village of Korpilombolo in northern Sweden, where inhabitants had for centuries been devoted to a form of voodoo introduced by a traveling witch doctor. There was, and there still isn't, anyone else quite on earth like them. Their mythology enticing, their music full of sinuous grooves and manic explosions of fuzz. GOAT were outliers from the very beginning, and the world music received an avalanche of acclaim with critics and psych heads and outer national crate diggers, etc., all left enraptured by its thunderous intensity, conjured from a singular mix of sounds from across the globe. So now, exactly a decade later, Rocket Recordings and the band have decided to dust off the original recordings of world music and pass them over to the capable hands of the team of legendary Abbey Road Studios to remaster the tracks and make them shine like they never have before. So the results are better than we could have hoped. New details within the tracks have been revealed, and most importantly, the fuzz is even more explosive than it was before. So you hear every crackle of electricity as it flows through the pedals. World Music's famous die-cut sleeve has been updated too. The colors of the eye-popping pattern have been reversed from the original, making the package even more desirable. So there you go, and nice. All right, next up, a reissue of Ariana Grande. Thank You. Next, this is 2 LPs. It's on Republic Records. It's the 5th studio album by Ariana Grande, released in 2019. And it was released 6 months after her 4th studio album that was called Sweetener came out in 2018. It was conceived in the midst of Grande's personal struggles, including the death of ex-boyfriend Mac Miller and the end of her engagement to Pete Davidson. That's kind of a weird line, you know. Your boyfriend died, but then your engagement broke off. How close together were they? It's kind of, I don't know. Anyway, she began working on the album in October of 2018 with Thank You Next. Grande distanced herself from the traditional promotion cycle that she employed on her previous album's release. Musically, the album is predominantly pop. It was described as Grande's most personal record up to that point, with its lyrical content reflecting on personal flaws, grief and denial, as well as independence and self-empowerment. So back in print, there you go. Next up, we have Immortal, War Against All, and this is through Nuclear Blast America. Produced and recorded by Enslaved's lead guitarist Arve Isdal at Conclave and Earshot Studios in Bergen, Norway. War Against All is the 10th studio album from Immortal, formed by Demonaz, who does the guitars, and Abath, who does bass and vocals, in 1990. And the band has become one of the most important black metal bands in the world. The band has their last record, 2018's Northern Chaos Gods, was crowned one of the top 40 albums that year by Decibel magazine. Blabbermouth described the record as leaving jaws on the floor with the Back to Basics Ice Pick to the Skull barrage. Limited edition gatefold sleeve, and this is on Baltic blue vinyl. It tells you that up here, and it's also limited edition of 2000 only. Okay, now this is a new Matchbox 20, Where the Light Goes. It's on Atlantic, and it's the 5th studio album from Matchbox 20. It's the band's first album in over a decade, since North in 2012. It's their first album not to be produced by longtime producer Matt Serletic. The album finds the band surging with energy for another great batch of real relevant and relatable songs, and that's just on straight up black vinyl. All right, this is Nas, The Lost Tapes, and this is on Legacy Recordings. And this compilation collects tracks recorded from 1998 through 2001 that for various reasons, and not because they were of inferior quality, just were not included on the rappers' albums released during that time. From start to finish, Nas sets aside the rhetorical frills, contrived interludes, and mediocre guest appearances that kind of have plagued a lot of his work since the classic Illmatic, and concentrates on delivering classic material. So this is good. Now, when you listen to the songs sort of one at a time, they're great, but somehow it's kind of makes for a little bit of a disconnect when it's all on one album. I don't know, but at least you can have the recordings. Okay, and this is Tito Puente. It's called Mambo Diablo. Now, this is on Concord Picante. Mambo Diablo is a 1986 Grammy winner in the Tropical Latin Album category, and it remains as one of the most distinct Latin albums to bridge the gap between jazz and Latin music ever. Tito was a multi-Grammy winner, and this album features his all-star band of Bobby Rodriguez, Sonny Bravo, Jimmy Frisara, John Dandy Rodriguez, and even includes jazz legend George Shearing. This album is reissued for the first time in decades in honor of Tito's centennial. Okay, then we have Shinedown, The Sound of Madness on Atlantic, the third studio album from American alternative metal hard rock band Shinedown. Nothing on this album is going to change anyone's life. There really is nothing new or earth-shatteringly original included here, but likewise there really isn't a weak track on the record, but from the first song, and incidentally the first single on the album called Devour, all the way through to the last track, Call Me, Shinedown has crafted a record that will appeal to many kinds of listeners and will surely garner attention to the Jacksonville, Florida outfit. So this one, it was from 2008, and their first two albums most people think were much stronger, and that this one sort of went more to this middle of the road area. So, you know, it garnered a few singles and got them charted and stuff, so, you know, it was well received, but people who were really into them tend to prefer the first two. All right, this is Simple Plan. No pads, no helmets, just balls. And this is on Lava Records. So this was the debut studio album from Canadian rock band Simple Plan. Formed by members of Reset, Simple Plan spent over a year recording their first album. They don't break any new ground, and they don't stay revved on all cylinders all the time. This is probably won't move you if you consider bands like Blink 182 and Sum 41 to be too mainstream for your taste. So you might also be disappointed if you're searching for a perfect pop record. But if you're interested in an unpretentious collection of reasonably catchy and energetic songs, then you might want to consider this album. Now we have the soundtrack to The Little Mermaid. This is the new one. Alan Menken is the composer on this, and this is through Walt Disney Records. The original Walt Disney Records soundtrack is the soundtrack to the 1989 Disney animated feature film The Little Mermaid, and it contains the songs from the film written by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, as well as the film's score composed by Alan Menken. Okay, so all right, sorry guys, I thought this was the brand new one, but this is the 1989 one. Okay, there you go. Sorry about that. Okay, now this is a new Sparks album. It's called The Girl Is Crying in Her Latte, and it is on Island Records. Now, Sparks have returned once again for the relentlessly intriguing album The Girl Is Crying in Her Latte. Over the past 6 decades, the pair have remained impressively prolific and retain a loyal fan base that appears to grow with each and every passing year. This perhaps is a testament to Sparks' thirst for sonic exploration and the aversion to antiquations. So, staying true to their Andy Warhol and Salvador Dali semblances, The duo bring the post-Dada trends of early 20th century art to the airwaves. Like Warhol prints, their colors are bright and attractive, and like Dali's melting clocks, the concepts run far beyond skin depth. To all intents and purposes, this album is an eclectic masterclass in avant pop exploration. This is on 180 gram clear vinyl and comes with a booklet, and it does tell you that on the sticker. Okay, this is going to be nice for a lot of people. Stuff's been out of print for so long. The Steely Dan Countdown to Ecstasy on Geffen. At long last, the classic Steely Dan catalog is back on vinyl. Led by Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, Steely Dan released 7 albums from 1972 to 1980. The vinyl series continues with Countdown to Ecstasy, the band's sprawling 1973 sophomore LP, with standouts such as Bodhisattva, Showbiz Kids, and My Old School, and this is on 180 gram vinyl. Okay. This is part of the Atlantic 75 Years series. This is Stone Temple Pilots, Purple, through the Atlantic Catalog Group. This was the second studio album by the American rock band Stone Temple Pilots, released in 1994 originally. So having scored a massive hit with their debut album, Core, Stone Temple Pilots returned to the same sludge-filled well for Purple, only to come up with an album that's harder, more concise, and filled with thunderous, punishing riffs. Headbangers will rejoice over the grinding guitar of Meat Plow, Vaseline, Loungefly, and Unglued, but the album reveals far more than one dimension. They back off the throttle for the hushed, although still intense, Pretty Penny, Big Empty, puts a respectable spin on the phrase power ballad, and the catchy hook-filled Interstate Love Song asserts itself as one of those most memorable alt-rock singles of the 90s. And this is Suicide, A Way of Life, 2023 version. This is BMG Rights Management UK Limited. And if there is one thing A Way of Life drives home more than anything, it's that Suicide never stopped being ahead of their time. Celebrating its 35th anniversary, Mutant BMG announced a special edition of A Way of Life. It's the third studio album by the influential electronic punk duo Suicide. Although the band barely received any credit during their career, Suicide is cited as one of the most inspirational bands of the 70s, influencing the likes of Soft Cell, Depeche Mode, and the Jesus and Mary Chain. Whilst garnering fans in Nick Cave, Jim Thirlwell, MIA, Spiritualized, Lydia Lunch, Bobby Gillespie of Primal Scream, and Savages, to name a few. This was originally released in 1988, more than a decade after their iconic self-titled album, A Way of Life, saw Alan Vega and Martin Rev once again team up with The Cars frontman Rick Ocasek to produce 9 creepily integrated industrial pop songs. So this anniversary edition is available on limited edition transparent blue, and sees the album fully remastered. Featured on each format are bonus tracks, Heat Beat, and a newly unearthed live cover of Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. So it does tell you on the sticker here that it is on the transparent blue vinyl too. Okay, now we have, this is Sylvanesso, What Now? And this is on Loma Vista. It's their sophomore album. We've had a lot of sophomore albums this week, either reissues or just, out. Anyway, What Now, which showcases the sound of a band that's truly fulfilling the potential and promise of their debut. Everything is evolved, the production is bolder, the vocals are more intense, the melodies are more infectious, and the songs shine much brighter. What Now is an album of the finest songs this band has ever written, produced masterfully, sung fearlessly to articulate our collective undercurrents of anxiety and joy. So that's pretty nice that that's out. Okay, then we have Billy Woods and Kenny Segal. This is called Maps, and it's on the Billy Woods label. So Maps is a new album from New York City rapper Billy Woods and LA producer Kenny Segal. Their first full collaboration since 2019's Hiding Places. 4 years after that landmark record, the duo have reunited with a vengeance. So Maps is a story of the road or roads taken and untaken, of living the dream and dreaming of another life. It is an album about trying to find your way home after making your home wherever you lay your head. So pretty interesting stuff on here too. Okay, so that's just a sample for you of some of the stuff that came out. Again, the full list will be down below, posted for you with prices. And again, you will see that we have not talked about some of the stuff that's on there, but I'm sure we're all anxious to start our Memorial Day 3-day weekend, and we just hit the 30-minute mark, so let's wrap it up. I hope you all have a great 3-day holiday, and I will see you next time.